Go
Hi,
ahead.
welcome to the newest episode of Sports Talk Central. I'm your host, Adit Mahmood, with my normal co-host, Hunter. And today we're going to be talking about NFL Week 6. We're going to be talking MLB Playoffs, and then we're going to finish up with some college football. So let's first talk about the Ravens and Steelers. What were your thoughts on the Steelers game?
Hey, I got to say, never thought I'd be talking about a Steelers win today, especially one where they go out of deep. Kelly Witherspoon out. Levi Wallace out. Cam Sutton out. Minkah Fitzpatrick out. They had players in there who I had never heard of before. Josh Jackson called it from the practice squad. I believe like Elijah Riley called it from the practice squad. They literally had a practice squad secondary going up against the GOAT. Would you believe me if I told you that they held them to 18 points and Tom Brady had a passer rating of 88, his third lowest of his career, against a team that he's bullied for 20 plus years? Would you believe me if I told you that?
No, but he's also 45, so I want to get to the point. There's another point I do want to get to, but with 45, maybe I believe a tiny bit, but no, I wouldn't put money on it.
And they also had Chris Godwin playing, Mike Evans, Leonard Fournette. Cameron Brate played for most of the game, but got a concussion. Hopefully he's okay. The Steelers, they had a beautiful game plan from Mike Tomlin and Terrell Austin, and they executed it. They didn't blitz Brady a lot. They kind of let him back. I mean, it's risky because you give him a lot of time. He'll try to pick you apart. They also played man coverage. That's huge. But when they did get pressure, even though they didn't blitz him, it was Cam Hayward, Larry Ogunjobi. They were getting to Brady, causing him to get off rhythm, and you saw a lot of inaccurate throws. And they didn't score a touchdown until the fourth quarter. Devin Bush made the play of the game, knocking that pass away on the 2-point conversion from Chris Godwin. That's probably the play of his career, to be honest. Chase Claypool came back from the dead, made some wonderful catches on that final drive. And I'll give credit to Mitch Trubisky. Came in, did not look like he was going to play today, delivered some big-time strikes on two key third and longs, and they were able to win the game and not give the ball back to Brady on that final drive. Because honestly, Adi, I was expecting them to give him the ball back, and you're only up less than 2 minutes left, and they got timeouts. 9.9 out of 10 times, the GOAT is going to go down and win you the game. That didn't happen. They were able to convert that. They were able to kneel it with about a minute and a half left. And this is probably one of Mike Tomlin's 5 greatest wins of the regular season, at least in his tenure. Offense still has a lot of problems. And the funny thing is, Steelers fans, they're always so quick. Oh, blame Mike Tomlin and all this. He stinks. He should be fired. And, I was criticizing him last week as well. But there's a difference between that and then, not crediting him another week when he actually has a game plan to stop one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And honestly, the greatest quarterback to ever play in this league. Fans, for some reason, they can't ever admit when they're wrong sometimes. I don't get it. I would rather, I'm trying to sound PG here. I would rather look at a wall for the rest of my life than be that miserable of a human where you can't give a coach credit for a game plan because you hate him so much. It is a joke.
I'm with you on that one. I do want to.
It boggles my mind. But these fans are deep. Oh, but the players won it. Oh, but they still had these problems. Who cares that they won the game? Like, you hate a coach that bad, and you're still not giving him credits. Like, I understand the team sucks, but for God's sake, get off your high horse. He coached a really good game plan on defense today. The offensive coordinator still stinks. Who cares? But you know what? He coached his butt off today, and the players played for him, and they won that game, and they executed his game plan. If you can't give him the slightest bit of credit, stop watching this sport. I say that to every Tomlin hater out there. Stop watching this sport. You can criticize him for his past playoff failures, criticize him for how he handled last week. They got their tails whooped. But you know what? It's a new week now. They went out there and beat should be an NFC contender, and they executed a beautiful game plan on defense without their entire secondary and without arguably the best defensive player in the league, not named Aaron Donald. So that is what I have to say about this. Great win. Mike Tomlin's an elite coach. Anyone who thinks otherwise, I can't with that stuff. And somehow, some way, they're only a game out of first. I'm sorry I got really fired up. I just hate seeing those kind of takes. I guess, we'll move to you now. The Ravens blew another lead today. I think that's the third one this season. Where are you at with this team right now? And what's the fan base going up? What's the fan base like over there?
I'm going to try to say what you're saying about the coach's situation. I'm going to try to sound more calm. I think that
Sorry.
I'm now at the point where if your gut reaction is to fire Harbaugh, fire the Roman, fire Mike McDonald, go find a door, kick rocks, and don't let the door kick you on the way out. Let's be clear. That's how I feel about it. So I tried to be more calm than what you were doing, but yeah, I 100% agree. Here's the thing: I like Lamar Jackson, and we were talking before we taped. I like Lamar Jackson. I think he deserves $50 million a year for what he can do. Here's the problem: he lost the game for the Ravens. Let me rephrase it. It wasn't the coaches that had the pre-snap penalties. It was the players. It wasn't the coaches that created that turned the ball over. It was Lamar. At what point do we, as fans, I get it. It's easier to blame the coaches. We had Virginia Tech fans probably wanted to fire Brent Pry after 2 games. There are Orioles fans that wanted to fire because they brought in 2 hitting coaches this year. They wanted to fire those hitting coaches 4 months after they got the job. So I get it. It's very easy to blame the coaches. But at what point do we have to go and blame the player? Do we have to go and criticize the players? And you can say about Harbaugh and Tomlin's lack of playoff success. How much of that is on the players? And you can say all you want about, well, it's been 4 or 5 years. Well, again, the Ravens and Steelers do tend to have the same roster for a long time. They don't turn it over, and that's why they're one of the best franchises. Mm-hmm. It's on the players. Now you could criticize the coaches for a little bit, but execution is on the players. Execution is not on the coaches. The coach's main job is to set up the players and hope they perform well. If they don't perform well, that's not on the coaches. So how does this relate to the Giants game? And how does this relate to the collapses? I think with Lamar, I think the issue is that Lamar has said that the whole contract thing doesn't really bother him. I think in most situations it doesn't really bother him, but there are moments where it does. And he does get freedom. And here's the thing. I get it. You want to be Superman to show that you have, or you know that you earned a fully guaranteed contract.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But sometimes being Clark Kent is good enough. In a Miami game, yes, you just needed one more drive. In the Bills game, you needed to get one more touchdown or one more field goal. Also, don't throw an interception in the end zone or don't take a sack. And I think that's the biggest thing was, and I think that's what the thing that Lamar needs to learn. The defense has to learn the same thing. And the collapses, people do criticize the defense. It's often Lamar's the last line of defense in this situation. It's they criticize the defense. But imagine being the defense and you are getting these stops, but the offense isn't moving the ball forward. So now it means that one big play by the other team just decreases that margin really fast. And if the offense does part of their job, then we're not talking about a 3-3 team. We're talking about a 4-2, 5-2, 5-1, or 6-0 team, because this team has been behind by a total of 2 minutes, by I think 120 seconds or 2 minutes. That's how long they've been behind other teams all year. So I think that it's a quick fix. I think that the more they get healthier, because you also have to keep in mind Ronnie Stanley, this is only his 2nd game that he played this year. J.K. Dobbins is still trying to get back on track. Justin Houston wasn't playing. Rashad Bateman wasn't playing. And then, so they are getting back their players healthy. I do like the pieces that they are getting back. I think are going to be good. I think Tyus Bowser was practicing this week, so he might be back next week. David Ojabo, the 2nd-round pick, he was practicing this week. He's more likely coming back in week after the bye week. Gus Edwards has been practicing the last couple of weeks, so that's going to be a big piece right there. So you are seeing these pieces start to come back. If they can tread water for the next couple of weeks, especially with the AFC North being as mid as it is right now, And you get Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins, and you get a healthy Ronnie Stanley, and you start to see, and then Marcus Peters coming back in like November or something, or December. This is a team that I think will be at a point where they can close games, whether it's because they get that one offensive drive in the third, fourth quarter. And look, Lamar has struggled in the fourth quarter. His numbers in the fourth quarter aren't very good, but if this team gets healthier and you get to full strengths, I can see this team playing really well. I think they are helped by the fact that this division isn't good. This AFC isn't very good right now. And then,
to be fair, also the AFC North, very mid.
Yeah, that's what I said. The AFC North is not as good as we thought it would be. The AFC West is not as good as we thought it would be. The whole AFC is not as good as we thought it would be. So
and it's funny. I didn't realize it. The Bengals, weren't they down by like a ton of points? I actually didn't even realize that they won against the Saints today. I guess the Saints really blew that lead. I believe they were up by like 2 possessions, if I recall correctly. But 2, 3, and 3 teams up there, and they got 2, 2, and 4 teams. The division stinks. Like it's mid
record. Yeah, it's whoever has the best divisional record is probably going to win that division. And like I said, it's going to come down to health. Like the Steelers are dealing with injuries. There's some Bengals fans last week that are saying you only beat us because we didn't have T. Higgins. It's like, well, wait a second. Last year when we didn't have our top 3 running backs, we didn't have our left tackle, we didn't have our number 2 corner. The second time you played us, we didn't have our number 1 corner. We didn't have our number 1 free safety. We didn't have our strong safety. You were saying injuries aren't an excuse. So why is injuries an excuse when you guys have injuries? Whatever. That's nonetheless here or there. And also with the Bengals, there's a whole lot of, if you play cover 2, you can stop them. It's when you play man coverage and let T. Higgins or Jamar Chase get the whole go when you let them go when you play man coverage, that's when they can stop you. And so I didn't catch the Saints game, so I need to see what they did there, whether they did play cover 2 the entire most of the time, or whether they were playing more man, or let's say more, I don't know. But it's gonna be pretty interesting there. Now, I mean, the rest of the NFL, I do want to bring up this point about Brady. We saw with Drew Brees, the writing was on the wall, and we all recognize first ballot Hall of Famer. But those last couple of years, we started to see the writing was on the wall. Like the arm wasn't there. Do you think we're seeing that with Brady?
I definitely think that Brady, he's not what he used to be. Like I was watching him today. That's the first time they played Brady since I believe 2018, 2019. I believe that's the first time they played them in 3 or 4 years, him at least. Not the same. Like his movement looked a bit shaky. Some of his passes did not look the same. The zip on the ball, not the same either. He was missing easy completions that I've never seen him miss. Heck, they stopped Brady on a quarterback sneak. I've never seen a team stop him on a quarterback sneak. I don't think I've honestly ever seen a team stop him.
Oh yeah.
When he needed one more. The Steelers stuffed him on 3rd and 1. They got the 4th down conversion because they had a nice toss play to Leonard Fournette, but that should tell you something as well. I know it's going to be fun. The takes. Brady actually went to a wedding on Friday night. That's true. So the takes are going to be fun with that, but definitely not the same from what I was watching today. That said, he's still performing at a decently high level this year. I'll still take the win over the GOAT. And honestly, even Brady at this level, he should be able to beat a bunch of practice squad guys in the secondary. Sorry. Like come on.
Yeah. Now I feel better about, the week, 2 weeks from now when Ravens play, Buccaneers. And hopefully this is the second out of 2 weeks of a good Thursday night football game, because that's going to be a Thursday night football game. The last 2 Thursday night football games have, I think I texted.
How did you say it?
There's more action. I've seen more action. Seeing with when the Amish people engage in foreplay than Thursday night football.
That's just wrong, man. Like I don't even want to I don't even want to think about that, but I mean, the comparison I go back to is I'd rather watch my water boil for pasta. To be honest, I just rather those two games were so bad. And it's bad in DC when Al Michaels is coming out and saying that Dan Snyder should sell the team. I don't know if someone from the league paid him to say that.
Full of crap. I think he's full of crap. I think Snyder's full of crap when he said the whole thing. If he has dirt, like that's something that when you have no case, that's something that you would say. So I
don't know if the league paid Al Michaels to say that, but he's long been respected in the league as one of the best play-by-play announcers. It's bad when that's happening. Honestly, when I look at the rest of the NFL, I think there are legitimately 4 or 5 actual good teams this year, and the rest are just
Chiefs.
Yeah, but Bills, Chiefs.
Who else?
I'll give you 2 more. And that's it. I think the Giants are legitimately good. Yeah. I don't think they're like really like elite, but they're good. Yeah. And I think the Dallas Cowboys are legitimately good. Yeah. Their defense is disgusting. Outside of those 5 teams, would you say there are any other really good teams in this league? Genuine question.
A bunch of teams that are flawed, and if the dice rolls the right way, they can go on a bit of a run. But other than that, like there's no legitimately like really good team other than the 5 you mentioned.
Yeah, I think it's just there's a lot of teams this year. As you said, they're flawed. They're mid. I mean, like some defenses are bad, quarterback situations. I don't know. It's a weird year for the NFL because there's a lot of bad football that's being played. I don't know. I think you've probably noticed that a lot of these games, like these teams are not well coached. The execution is lacking. A lot of blown leads. The witching hour has just been crazy. But also, like, especially not even these last couple of Thursday night games, the football has just been bad. It's just gross. It's just not fun to watch, really, to be honest. And I usually don't say that about the NFL. I think there's been obviously some classics this year, especially that Raiders.
I have a potential explanation for why the football has been bad, but yeah, you can continue.
I'll give it to you in just a second. But yeah. I mean, it's just I think there's a lot of parity. I think that's one of the main reasons for it, and a lot of teams are evenly. I mean, it comes down to the any given Sunday mantra. That's also true, but I think a lot of teams are also really evenly matched, which, some of the top tier teams, they're going to crush those teams, but when they play each other, obviously it's a bit different. Like you're seeing the Bills and the Chiefs play right now. The roughing the passer goal's got to be under control. I'm sick and tired of watching defensive players hit quarterbacks with how they're taught to hit them in Pee-wee football. I mean, I hate saying this because it's such a stupid cop-out. I mean, I played as a kid. That's how you're taught to hit quarterbacks, the way they're hitting them, and then you're still getting flagged. It's just really, I'm not recognizing the game anymore. But just going back to the rest of the NFL, like, what is your theory for why a lot of games are so bad this year and why a lot of teams are just so jumbled?
I think it's kind of similar, and it's kind of similar in baseball as well. But it's like the idea of it's the copycat strategy. It's basically that the NFL trying to become more of like the passing team. Like they're trying to look at what the Bengals are doing, what the Chiefs are doing, what the Bills are doing, and so they try to mimic those teams. And so basically, and the basic idea is they overpay for positions like receivers, or they're trend chasers. They want to get focus on positions for receivers and pass rushers. The thing is, especially with receivers, there's a few good elite receivers. Like with the Bills, when they brought in Stephon Diggs, that really changed their offense. With the Chiefs, with Tyreek Hill, and that really changed their offense. Now, obviously, they have Patrick Mahomes and they have Travis Kelce. The point I want to bring up is, I think what fans and what teams don't realize is there's a top shelf of talent. So when you're talking about paying, like when you're talking about like Stephon Diggs, when you're talking about all these great receivers coming into first, some of these receivers like Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase, there's a limited amount of those guys. So what they do is they try to go and find these second level, third level guys, pay them as if they're top shelf guy. And then basically they don't get to that point because they're natural talent, like Christian Kirk's not Stephon Diggs. So then what would happen is the teams, they tend to fall apart a little bit. They tend to be a little more inconsistent because what they're doing is they're trend chasing, and instead of getting the elite talent, and because they can't draft, maybe they don't draft well or something. What they do is they take these second or third tier guys, and they expect them to perform like their top tier guys. So when it comes to the parity in the league, a lot of these teams are actually, you see, it's bad football because you're basically seeing somewhat of a cheap knockoff of what what Chiefs are doing, what the Bills are doing. If the Bengals can't defend cover two, the Bengals might join everyone else. So basically, to what the point we were discussing, we have 2 or 3 really good teams, and then we have the whole everyone else. And then the problem is most of those teams are trying to emulate what the top 2 teams are doing, but what they don't realize is what they're realizing is the talent level of the guys they got of chasing trend aren't there, so they're taking second or third tier guys and trying to make them look like first tier guys. It's not like putting what's the saying? It's not quite as extreme as putting lipstick on a pig and expecting it to win a beauty pageant. But that's my point. And I think in baseball, you're seeing the same thing. Like baseball, they're trying to do the same thing. In basketball, everyone's trying to be the Warriors, right? Everyone's trying to find the 3-point shooters. And ultimately what that leads is you're taking these second, third level guys and expecting them to hit above their weight. And I think that's why you're seeing these the parity. What are your thoughts on that?
Sure. I'll mute. No, I think that's a good way to say it. I also think some teams, a lot of these teams are kind of like stuck in the middle a little bit. Like some teams don't really know like what direction they're going in. It leads to a lot of middling football. And, you mostly know who the contenders are in this league. And I think you also mostly know who the pretenders are. But then there's also a good stack of teams that are kind of middling. You don't know what direction they want to go, or they say they're win now, but they should be rebuilding. Like the Carolina Panthers, they're very mid. They say they want to contend this year. We're going to go get Baker Mayfield, but you're obviously a really bad team. I think the 49ers, there may be an example team because I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo is that good.
Trey Lance is not that good either.
It's a small sample size still, so we got to see that. But especially in the AFC, you have the top 2 teams who I think are probably going to play in the AFC Championship game, and then you have a lot of other mid teams who, they're going to make up the playoffs. Maybe they'll be an upset or 2, but I think everyone knows where this is going. And I think part of what you said, it's the parity, it's all the other things you said, and it's just, I feel like that's kind of, I don't like to say that the NFL has been boring this year, but in a way it kind of has, just because a lot of these games have just been either uncompetitive or there hasn't been like a lot of, like, oh, wow, what a moment.
You're either drunk or you want to fall asleep.
Basically, yeah. And, I think tonight could be a classic. Eagles, Cowboys. I know Cooper Rush is playing. By the way, I am tired of those takes about him being the starting quarterback. Dak Prescott is their quarterback. Like, stop. Like, we don't need to make this more than it is. That's like saying Tyler Huntley, if he goes 4-0 with Lamar Jackson out, is he going to replace Lamar Jackson? Like, no. Like, I just don't.
Lamar wants like $300 million or something that's fully guaranteed, but then that's only because of the financial thing.
Yeah. I mean, basically, yeah. So there's just a lot of weird talking points overall this year. But I think tonight could be a classic. Should be a good game in Philadelphia. The Eagles, very big, much a Super Bowl contender. I think right now the team to beat in the NFC. I don't think you'd be surprised if they went to the Super Bowl this year. They look miles better than they did last year. So hopefully that game is good. And then the Monday night game, if I have to watch another Nathaniel Hackett masterclass on primetime football, I might blow a gasket.
Do you think that when Nathaniel Hackett took the job that he thought Aaron Rodgers was going to join him, or do you think that he just took the job to be head coach?
I think he took the job to be the head coach. I don't think he knew that Rodgers was going to go there. I think Rodgers always wanted to be a Packer. This was just leverage to get the contract done. I think he just wanted to be a head coach. And I think either way, he probably knew he was going to get a quarterback. The Broncos weren't going to roll into next season with Drew Lock. They had a roster that was I mean, is ready to win now, but Russ, Broncos country, let's ride. Well, you're not riding. You're not riding right now. That's for sure.
No, I mean you're riding further away from the playoffs than closer to it.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't want to go that far, but you took it that far. He's been not good.
I mean, granted, apparently there was an injury that he's trying to nurse through, but again, he still has to play better, and he should play better. I mean, granted, like some of that isn't great. I mean, I want to talk MLB playoffs a little bit later.
Also, I will say the Rams are not good this year. Like that.
Oh,
it's almost. I don't think their Super Bowl. It wasn't a fluke because they were a legitimately good team, but they look bad. They do not look good.
It's almost like going all in and winning one Super Bowl might not be worth it. And it might not be.
I'll push back on that a little bit. I will say this, Deep. Banners are a lifetime.
Yeah.
You win it. It's all good. But, I also see your point where, for example, like the Los Angeles Dodgers, 10 straight years in the playoffs, you have one championship chip to show for it. But also, that's part of the argument. Winning a championship is hard.
Oh, yeah, it is.
You got to execute the game plans. You got to game plan in general. You have to get the luck. You have to get the bounces. So they're never going to apologize for winning because they haven't won a championship in 20 years. And I'm sure they won't apologize for going all in, but they're going to have to live with the price of not being as good, for example, this season.
So it's like imagine going up a hill and then at the top of the hill is winning a championship. Look, if you go all in, great. That's fine. You win a championship, fantastic. You're right. Banners live forever. You got to go down the hill. At some point, you got to go down the hill. And all those picks, granted, they draft well. They draft in the mid-rounds pretty well. Okay, so I give them that. They do have a way of replenishing talent. It's just there is a cost to it. And we might be seeing the cost. And what I was saying is going for it. Going all in might not be the best strategy. What I was really referring to, one, you're shorting your windows. If you do win a championship, great. But you're not. If you don't have a dynasty, it's one championship and then it's a slight downhill, and then it's like, oh, imagine that one championship you won of 5-6 years ago, and then that's where the issue comes into play. So.
I hear you. That's a good point. I mean, they're not going to apologize for winning. Like you shouldn't. I mean, but you also are right. That's the price you pay for going all in. And right now, you're down 10-7 to a team without even a head coach, and they're playing PJ Walker.
And then for the Panthers, I'm just going to make this one point. We just talk with the Panthers for a little bit before we talk MLB playoffs. I understand that people want DJ Moore. I understand Robbie Anderson, Brian Burns. There's some talented pieces. I know Ravens fans are willing to trade a first-round pick for DJ Moore. I like the guy. I don't know if he's going to be a fit. But who do you think will get traded from the Panthers if there is a fire? By the way, if there is a fire sale, right? If there is a fire sale.
I know there's a lot of rumors about Christian McCaffrey. I can't see it. Do you? I don't really.
No, especially not for multiple first-round picks.
No, I don't see that at all. DJ Moore, I could see. I could see Anderson. I could see some of their defensive players. It's not coming to my mind. They have a couple really good linebackers I know of that are going to get trade interest.
I could see Bradley Bozeman being a guy that they could flip. He's only on a 1-year deal.
I mean, why not? They got a stockpile draft pick. They're rebuilding at this point. Can't see McCaffrey. Could see a couple of their receivers. What about you? Who do you think? I think you already answered that. I
don't think DJ Moore. I think that they're going to build around him. Plus, there's a $40 million dead cap hit if they move him this season. So, because obviously you got a draft class. If you have a rookie quarterback, you get vet receivers. You could help protect your quarterback that way. I think that McCaffrey sticks around because of his injury history and the high asking price. Brian Burns is a guy they probably want to build around, especially if they get a rookie quarterback, so they don't have to pay a lot of money to. I'll look at guys at expiring contracts. I think Robbie Anderson's a guy. He's under contract. He's under contract for next year as well, but you could get out of that contract in a year. And he could probably help the team if you really wanted to. I don't think Terrence Marshall gets traded. I think he's cheap enough and productive enough. Bradley Bozeman's the guy I could see as an under the radar trade candidate because he's on a 1-year deal. It's a $2 million deal, I believe. He can play guard. He can play center. So he might have some value to teams, and it's not like you're committed to him. They basically, to me, it's going to be the guys that are going to be a part of this team in the future. Like those are the guys I think will get traded. But but just saying, for any team that wants to trade a first-round pick for DJ Moore or Robbie Anderson, it's mid-season. You have to make sure that the fit is there, and then obviously with DJ Moore's cap hits of 2016 and I believe 2016 and 19 million, so manageable. But I don't know if it all depends on whether the Panthers are going to be in the market for one of the college quarterbacks, whether it's Bryce Young or CJ Stroud or Levis, whoever it is. And if they do get one, then to me the strategy would be to keep your guys, keep your high guys you have for the next few years, and build around your quarterback rather than a trade for draft picks. So
I also will say, the Steelers, their deadline's coming up. They're 2-4. I don't know if they're going to sell off assets. They just don't believe in that philosophy. I mean, sure, they're probably going to lose a lot more games this season. Probably will get. I think they'll get a top 10 pick in the draft. I just can't see them selling off a lot of assets at the deadline. These next couple of weeks, they play the Dolphins, then they play the Eagles. That's going to be a loss, I think. Both on the road. You're probably 2-6 going into your bye. I still, even then, I just don't know if they're going to sell out. I mean, Chase Claypool had a great game today. Mitch Trubisky, maybe, but they also may not want to do that with Kenny Pickett's uncertainty. Just don't really know. I mean, they should, because they can stockpile more picks, helps them the rebuild go a lot quicker. They'll already have high picks to begin with if they lose a lot more games, but part of me just feels like they don't believe in that. And I don't know if they'll do that. So just wanted to finish up with that.
Yeah, I don't know what the Ravens are going to do, because I know that apparently they've been talking. The rumors are saying they are talking to the Panthers for other receivers with Dante Jackson. I maybe Robbie Anderson, because they could cut him next year after the season ends and have a 0 dead cap hit on that one. But we'll see what they do. I don't think they'll trade for a receiver because they brought in Andy Isabella from the Cardinals, who's a 5'9" speedster. He was one of those combine guys. He had a 4.3 40. So he was from UMass. He was a second-round pick. But he's I could see them giving him a chance. But if this Bateman injury is more serious than they thought, then they're probably going after a receiver. But we'll see what happens there. And then let's talk about the MLB playoffs. Obviously, we know 3 out of the 4 teams. We know 3 out of the 4 teams participating in championship series: Astros, Phillies, Padres, and then right now the Guardians have a 2-1 series lead over the Yankees. What are your thoughts on on MLB playoffs so far?
Easy. I mean, I didn't expect a 111-win Dodgers team to bow out to the Padres. Congrats to them. Played very well. Joe Musgrove had another great game.
Machado's interview at the end of the game.
I did not.
He was hammered.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm pretty sure they went to a bar after and they got trashed. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure someone from their team
Will Myers.
Will Myers got shots, I think, for a ton of guys and girls at the bar. Probably just spent like all his entire last week's paycheck on random people. But when you go to the pennant, like, who cares? Really happy for them. And you know what? That's a small market team. What they just did, they beat the highest payroll team.
Without Tatis, by the way. Without Tatis.
I don't want to hear about these small market teams saying, oh, we can't compete against these big teams. The Padres just took down the freaking Dodgers in 4 games. I don't want to freaking hear. They have an owner that went all in, even though it's a small market team. He went all in, and guess what? It's working out right now, and they're 1 series away from going to their first World Series in how is
a long time. I mean,
I don't even remember the last time they went to the World Series. Congrats to the Phillies too. Obviously, Bryce Harper's over there, so I'm a little miffed about that, but they took it to the Braves. It looked like the Braves had no shot. They looked like they were feeling the loss of Freeman a lot. Their pitching got blown up, especially after they had that wonderful 78-34 run to end the season to take the NL East away from the Mets. And then,
1998.
19 what?
1998.
Wow. I was 1 year old at that time. But last but not least, I feel terrible for Mariners fans, man. You get sellout crowd, your first playoff game there in 20 plus years, and you lose a 1-0 game in the 5th, 14th, 15th inning. That's just gut wrenching. Like I would almost rather lose that game 8-0. Or like, oh no. I would almost rather lose that game like 8-2 or something. At least you get a couple runs in it, but a 1-0 gut wrenching loss. Ugh. I feel terrible. But this just goes to show how deep the Astros are. I think indeed this is the team that's going to win it all.
They had another star in the bullpen ready. They had another guy who could go 5-6 innings if they had to.
Yeah, I think right now they're the best team in baseball. And whoever they get, whether it's the Yankees or the Guardians, I think they're going to beat them. And I think they're going to be a really tough out in the World Series. And I saw what happened with the Yankees last night. I'm sure you were smiling about that. Did not expect them to blow that game.
I found it funny. I found it funny the guy's Oscar Gonzalez's walk-up song is SpongeBob. Like, that has to be a major sign of disrespect. You just like the guy who hit the game-winning home run. You hear, "Are you ready?"
No. You're right, and you're down your last out, your last strike. Yankees about to go up 2-1, and they can't. Beautiful hit. Cleveland's going crazy. Oh, another example: small market team, 1 win away. They develop their pitching well. They have great starters, great bullpen. They do enough with their offense, even though they're not that offensively gifted, and it works. And it got them to the World Series just a few years ago. It got them to within a game, honestly, of winning their first championship in who knows how long. And they may win tonight. Anything less than a perfect performance from Garrett Cole, the Yankees are gone. They need him at his very best tonight. And I'm sure if they lose, you're going to be insufferable on Twitter and probably in real life as well.
No, I'm gonna be happy. I'm just not gonna tweet about it. But yeah, no. I know. I think you're crying because your grandfather unfortunately passed away like a month ago. Like you're probably rooting for the Yankees. So I'm gonna try to be as kind as I can with the Yankees in that situation. But I do want to point this out though. Like I'm an Orioles fan. You're a Nationals fan. I remember in the 2012 draft, Nationals took Harper #1 overall. Orioles took Machado. Number 3 and number 4 overall. They made their debuts around the same time. They got their contracts in the same year. And 4 years later, it's Machado versus Harper in the NLCS, which is great. Which is, I think, 4 years it took them 4 years, but eventually signing that contract with the team, it actually worked. And obviously the team's made other big moves, and you're right. The Padres have gone in. Like, by the way, no, the Padres have not just gone all in. They've gotten all in, and then all in again, and then all in again, and then all in again. They're almost emptying out the reserves. That's how further they're into this. I honestly, if their bullpen can be as solid as they can, and their starting pitching can limit what the Phillies do, they could very well be the Atlanta Braves of this playoffs, because they do have the bullpen. I mean, Josh Hader kind of figured it out in September. I'm kind of rooting for the Padres because Machado was on the Orioles. Ryan Flaherty is in.
I am too. Juan Soto's my guy. Josh Bell's my guy. I love seeing him elated.
That's a fun team. That's a fun team to.
I'll never say a bad word about Soto, man. I was so happy for him. And you're right. I'll let you finish up. That's a fun team, and they're just fun to watch, I think is the main thing. And I'm happy for Bob Melvin, A's manager who, let's face it, never reached this round with the A's with Billy Beane. He's getting his shot now.
Yeah, and so I think going to the Phillies. I mean, the Phillies are a nice story. I don't know if they're going to. I don't know who's going to win the series. It's going to be a pretty good match. Then when you get to the American League, I think it's going to be, once again, it's going to be Astros versus whoever else. I think the Astros are going to be beat either the Yankees or the Guardians. It's just like they have the Yankees number, and then when it comes to the Guardians don't hit a ton of home runs. They are just more of a bloop single. Like they're just set up like 5 or 6 hits in a row, especially in that 9th inning, because none of those balls were hit hard. Like if you watch that 9th inning, none of those balls were hit hard. It was a ball. It was like a ground ball just past the second baseman. It was a bloop single here and there, and they got 3 runs. And frankly, if they tied the game there, the next guy probably would have gotten a bloop single there as well. So they're that type of team. I do think the Guardians are going to win because I think Garrett Cole he's not quite earning that contract. He like that 324 over 9 years. He hasn't quite earned that contract yet, but it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting because if the Yankees lose, they could lose more than you would think, because obviously you have the Aaron Judge contract and whether Aaron Judge leaves or not. And by the way, did you hear that the Yankees booed Aaron Judge in Game 1?
I did. Just dumb. Like, fans are just mad that his playoff numbers are way low. I'm pretty sure he's batting like not even
0 for 8. Before a home run, he was like 0 for 8 with 8 strikeouts.
Yeah, but like going back the last several years, I think he's batting like not even 200. I had the home run though, but they need him to be their best player, especially tonight. Backs are against the wall. You need Cole to go at least 7 innings, and you need Judge to carry you. And Rizzo's got to play well. Stanton, they need to hit. And I know the Indians have a great pitching staff. They got to find a way to send this series back to New York. They got to do everything they can.
Yeah, So it's gonna be interesting. Cal Quantrill's not that bad of a pitcher. And then we'll see what they do. It's gonna be but it's gonna be fun. Like Astros, Guardian. Like if the Guardians win, Astros, Guardians, Padres, Phillies. That's a pretty good Final Four. And that's like
it's. I will say, it's a lot different than I thought it would be.
Yeah,
it's been very unpredictable. Glad the Dodgers not in it. I'm tired of seeing them there. Braves, the same thing. I don't really like the Braves or the Phillies. Astros, I'm kind of getting tired of as well. But I think everyone knew they were going to beat the Mariners.
I think it was the Astros, either the World Series, one half of the World Series matchup has either been Houston or the Dodgers. I think every year since 2016 or 2017. 2017. Every year, because it was 2017 it was Houston, LA, 2018 it was LA, Boston, 2019 it was Houston, Washington, 2020 was Tampa, Dodgers, 2021 was Houston, Atlanta. So
that's crazy. Has Houston been in the World Series 3 of the last 4 years? I'm pretty sure.
Dodgers, Braves, Nationals, yes.
Wow.
It's a Philly win.
They're trying to go 4 out of the last 5 years. That's some Patriots type stuff right there. I can't lie, it is.
And it makes me excited as an Orioles fan. If let's say they do this, right? It makes me excited as an Orioles fan, because here's the thing: the Orioles GM was a big part of that Houston rebuild. He was actually in 2012. He was He started as a scouting director for Houston, then worked his way up to assistant GM. The assistant GM of the Orioles right now was actually the guy who developed the analytics for Houston in their rebuild. So if what Houston was doing, and the fact that the Orioles are bringing in some of these guys from Houston, if they take the sign stealing out of it, but if they bring in some of these guys, like Houston, take away the sign stealing, Houston's consistency has been really good, and the Orioles can get that consistency great. And we'll see what they do there. Before we get to the Hokies football, I do want to say one thing about that point. Is I've seen a lot of Orioles fans on Twitter talk about last couple weeks, like, oh, we don't need a free agent shortstop because we have 3 or 4 really good middle infield prospects, and Mateo is a solid defender. Here's the thing. There are 4 major shortstops available. You know what all 4 of those guys have? A World Series ring. Yeah, Bogarts, Correa, Turner, Swanson. Those four have the world playoff pedigree.
Trey Turner's going to make a lot of money. Trey Turner's going to make a lot of money.
Oh yeah, and I like Jordan Westberg. He's a prospect. I like Connor Norby. He's a prospect. I like who else was it? Ortiz. I forgot his first name. He's a prospect. I like Mateo's defense. I like Mateo's speed. I do not like his bat. He's a utility player. Carlos Correa, Trey Turner, Xander Bogaerts, Dansby Swanson are all previous World Series champions. They've been there. They've done that. If you have the opportunity to go and get one of those guys, you do that. And you figure out the rest later. I've seen people talk about, because obviously, I'll talk about a little bit more in the next, after the season's over, because until Correa signs elsewhere, he makes a ton of sense for Baltimore, given the fact that, like I mentioned, the Houston connections and the fact that they met with him before. But I just wanted to bring up that point because as fans, we tend to value our own guys a little more. That when there is a rare opportunity to see an upgrade, we don't actually see it. Like, you know what I'm saying, right? We don't quite see it as an upgrade because we see 30 million, 33 million, 35 million a year. Or like those contracts. Those contracts aren't worth it. If you have a chance to bring a World Series champion to your team, especially in baseball, especially with prospects, you don't know how good they're going to turn out. You bring those guys if you can and figure out the rest later. So let's go talk college football. So let's actually talk Virginia Tech football first, and then they made a comeback against Miami. They lost, but what are your thoughts?
Liked the fight in the fourth quarter. I really did. I liked the way the offense moved the ball in the fourth quarter. I liked the way the defense was playing. They were fired up. They couldn't get those stops at the end. 3rd and 8 and 3rd and 2. They're the biggest thing right now for this team. They got to learn how to win again. These losses, this is what happens when you're in, year one of a new coach. You got to learn how to win. And that's what they're learning right now. They're still making those losing plays that, you're so close. You're leaving points down there. That said, you got to cut back on the mistakes in the first 3 quarters. They win that game if they're just like even half of what they did in the fourth quarter, because Miami wasn't good. Like, they weren't. Like, the defense, I know they gave up some points, that they kept them in the game going into the fourth. It was still only a 3-score game, and they cut it to only a six points with a few minutes left. They were 1 play away, 3rd and 8, from getting a stop and getting the ball back and potentially a chance to win. But you got to make these winning plays. You gotta, it's going to take time. I think they're going to win some of those games next year under year 2. It's going to be a long rebuild, but you gotta people just gotta, what I would say to the fan base, hang on. It's going to get better. Keep donating, keep supporting the program. It was a sellout crowd, even though this team is absolutely awful. But they're young. There's not a lot of talent. They got to keep learning. They're going to hit the portal hard this offseason. Just, keep fighting, and I think they did that in the fourth quarter. They didn't give up, which is huge, I think, for me. I know these are moral victories, but, you just got to keep going. And I'm hoping that there are better days ahead for this team.
Yeah, I think, when we talk, I do want to bring up the Tennessee-Alabama game because that's also relevant to this discussion as well. But I mean, what it feels like is you could see the kernel of talent that this team has. Like they have some talented players like Lofton. I like Daquan Wright is a solid player. Malachi Thomas is good. Grant Wells has a strong arm. Bryce Duke is a solid player. The thing is, who's the guy? And Caleb Smith is fine, but it seems like you have a lot of pieces in a room, a lot of people in a room, but you don't have a clear alpha. And I think one of the things is that once you find that clear alpha, once you find that number one guy, like you go back to the West Virginia game, they had that big running back that would just keep running the ball. And when things didn't go right, they would just go to that running back. They had a good receiver there. Or you go to the Pitt game. Pitt had the the guy who ran for like over 300 yards. They had that old reliable, and we don't just. And are reliable. Right now it's Caleb Manson, who makes 3-4 good big plays, but he's not. It's not consistent. Like where it's like hitting it. Like it's like basically a lineup that hits home runs every once in a while and strikes out most of the time. It is an all-or-nothing offense. Like the offense wasn't. It just kept stalling. It just kept stalling over and over and over again in the first 3 quarters. And we do have talent, and I think once we find that piece, whether it's Daquan Wright, whether it's Lofton, whether it's Bryce Duke, whether
that drop touchdown, man.
Yeah.
Oh, that's still kicking in. I know you know what play I'm talking about as well. Keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, like my point being is this team, it has the pieces, but it doesn't have the glue. Like, let me put it this way. They have the pieces, but they don't quite have the glue to put those pieces together. And again, maybe that comes from transfer portal. Maybe that comes from Grant Wells.
It is going to come from the portal.
Yeah. Maybe it's going to come from one, and maybe we see a guy take a step next year and be that Trey Turner. Be that Trey Turner. Be that Bucky Hodges or Cam Phillips or some of these other guys that we had in the past that were really solid. And maybe we do get one of those guys as a second-year player, or maybe we do get a freshman who plays really well. But it's a rough year. But look, I like to fight in this team. I think that they do believe in Brent Pry way more than they do in Fuente, which let's move on to the I want to move on to the Tennessee-Alabama game because that kind of goes into this discussion because we had because obviously Hendon Hooker is doing really well, and I mean, and then also not just that, the was it Jalen Hyatt, the receiver from Tennessee that was a Virginia Tech commit that went to Tennessee. I mean, that was just a game where we had the issues of like if Fuente or Cornelson had a bad day, it was yesterday. And because you think about it, you had Turner, you had Herbert, you had Hooker. You would think if you could develop your quarterback, you could have a decent offense. Like you had the pieces there. You had those big hammers. You had the glue. But I mean, it just goes to show how bad we were last few years with Cornelson, the uncreative play call, and Fuente running out and choosing a Burmeister. I mean, I was saying a Burmeister over Hooker. I mean, how bad of a memory do you think that game was for Virginia Tech?
I mean, it definitely was. I mean, I will say this: would Hendon Hooker be this good if he had stayed there? No. Would he be on track to be a first-round draft pick right now?
No, he wouldn't be. And that's my point. That's the coaching staff. That's the coaching staff that kind of did that. And he was in a good situation for it. I mean, so, and I think I texted you this. I don't know if you saw it, but basically what I said was I feel conflicted about the Hendon Hooker thing because had Hendon Hooker stuck around the development probably wouldn't be there. But even if he was good, we still might have Fuente, and we still might have Fuente and Cornelson on the team, on the coaching staff, and that's not good. But
the program. You're right. The program would still have the staff because honestly, if Hooker had started and it wasn't Burmeister those last couple of years, they're probably potentially in at least one more ACC championship game if he's playing well. I mean, for God's sake, they were 8-3 just a few years ago, and the only reason why they didn't go is because Bryce Perkins had the game of his life. Hooker played well in that game. He did. Only reason why I lost is because of Perkins. So, like, honestly, they would have been, Hooker would have, I think, masked a lot of Fuente's inefficiencies, and in turn, that would have continued to set the program back because he would still be here today.
Right, and I think that's why when you see a lot of fans, when you see a lot of Tech fans saying, why did we let him walk? I mean, for me, it's like, it sucks because I would love to have another quarterback like a Vic, like a Tyrod Taylor to a degree to root for, to say, that's our program. That's our Virginia Tech program. We have that guy. But at the same time, the strings attached was we had a clown show of a coaching staff. Let's be honest, like a discount clown show that you forget about, that you see by if you drive in the middle of nowhere, that type of a coaching staff. And unfortunately, yes, if we kept him, he would have hidden the weakness, I think. And if we let him walk, it still sucks either way because we let a talented player walk. So either way, we end up with egg in our face. So I mean, so yesterday was really a bad day for Virginia Tech fans in multiple regards because obviously, Virginia Tech and Fuente, they were trending on Twitter. I mean, it's like, how could Virginia Tech let go of Hooker? It's like, well, let me educate you on this one. It's about 30 minutes. It's gonna be a long time, but let me explain why all that happened. So we'll end the show on that note. We should have a show next week. We're going to be recapping. We're going to be talking MLB playoffs. We're going to be talking. Some Virginia Tech football, college football as well, and NFL football as well. So we'll see you next week.
Yep, we'll be back next week. See you guys.